Wow. Kyle Filipowski was absolutely magnificent tonight for the Jazz against the Portland Trail Blazers. What a game. Let's talk about it.
Jazz Smack, your source for information and analysis about the Utah Jazz and NBA basketball. Jazz Smack is a community for passionate Utah Jazz NBA fans.
Kyle Filipowski was absolutely magnificent tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers. This was, without question, the best game that Kyle has played for the Jazz since joining the team, and it was magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. This is exactly what we want to see from Kyle. He played big minutes. He had a big impact. He elevated the play of his teammates through his incredible court vision, and he shot the ball really well. I mean, he was just spectacular across all the statistical categories. He rebounded it, he shot it, and he passed it. He was great, and he played decent defense as well. He did have one block shot. The thing I love about Kyle so much is that he's a very unique player in that he seems to really care about the way his teammates play and his ability to impact the way his teammates play and his ability to elevate the play of his teammates. And he does that through passing the ball. Kyle sees the floor. He understands the game. He throws backdoor cuts, passes to backdoor cutters all the time. And it's just so refreshing to see that, because there's so few young players coming into the league with that. The way that the emphasis is on, especially in the AAU ball, into your own shots and your own points, finding the guys who actually believe in elevating the play of their teammates, and that's a primary focus, those guys are few and far between. And Kyle, at 6'11", his ability to handle the ball, pass the ball, and his improving shooting, I mean, this plays out great for the Jazz. I mean, where Kyle was picked, I mean, you would have never guessed that this actually occurred in his rookie season. You know, between Collier and Filipowski, those two picks, where they were picked, man, the Jazz just struck gold with those two guys. At least all indications are at this point they struck gold with those two guys. So absolutely spectacular game from Kyle, and we'll go through the box score. But another interesting feature of tonight was that Bryce also got big minutes, and he shot the ball really well. This was Bryce's best game since he had that stretch on the road trip where he shot the ball so well and he scored all those points. Tonight was Bryce's best game since those days. And, you know, he's been really struggling with playing time and getting shots to go in over the last month or so. But boy, he turned that around tonight, and he played a great game. He defended reasonably well. He shot the ball reasonably well. I mean, he had a solid overall outing, and that's great to see, because he, like I said, recent games with the minutes and stuff, it's just so hard for that guy to get into a rhythm with so few minutes, and completely turned that around tonight. So going into this game, I mean, the Jazz had a starting lineup that you don't expect to win the game. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I'm sure that the message came down from the top between Ainge and Zanuck, and they told Hardy that, listen, after that Houston win, we have to lose this game. So we're going to just eliminate all the veteran players, and you're going to go with the youth and coach them as well as you can coach them to win, but ultimately we actually need a loss. And so going back to Hardy, what Hardy needs to do And he did the right thing. What you need to do with the young core, you don't go, yes, the Jazz need to lose the game, but you play the younger guys, but you still coach them really hard, and you coach them to win. And you want them to play the best that they can possibly play. So you can't just play the guys and tell the guys, well, we're going to tank. No, the guys that do play need to play as hard as they possibly can, and you hope they play as well as they possibly can. So this is why it's so important for the Jazz to actually sit the veteran players rather than play the veteran players. The only way to facilitate losses for the Jazz, if you coach them hard and coach them to win, is to actually sit your best players. So that has to be the strategy for the remaining games of the season. There's no other way around it. You have to sit the guys. You have to sit the veteran players. When they do play, they need to put up minutes, but they just need to sit. That's the reality of it. They need to sit. Lowry, on the other hand, the only caveat to that, in my opinion, is the Lowry factor. Lowry needs to, I want Lowry's numbers to improve over the last number of games this season so that his statistical averages improve, and he needs to actually log some games in order to do that, because Lowry's really had a difficult year. He just hasn't shot the ball as well as he has last year and the year before that. And so to maximize the value that the Jazz have in Lowry, so that if a trade comes up in this offseason or next season or whatever, Lowry's numbers are justify getting a nice return back, because right now, obviously, Lowry is the number one asset that the Jazz have. And long term, it's unlikely, in my opinion, that the Lowry is going to be with the Jazz when they get good enough to actually make a significant and serious run at getting to the title. I don't think Lowry's going to be part of that. So they need to maximize his value in order to have a really high value trade asset. But anyway, so with the starting lineup the way it was, with all those veteran guys sitting and starting Juzang, KJ Martin, Filipowski, Sensabaugh, and Collier, I mean, obviously you're going into the game thinking you're going to lose the game. But that's okay. Where the Jazz are right now as a franchise, development of those guys, the youth, and seeing what you actually have in those guys. That's another thing. It's a time of evaluation. Not only do you see how they play on the court in terms of their skill level, but what type of effort do they bring to the table? How tough are they? You evaluate all these factors of these young guys. I mean, this is an important evaluation period, and especially these guys who aren't in their rookie year, the guys who are in their second year, and Walker's obviously in his third year. It's an evaluation time. We need to evaluate all these guys too, because all these guys are going to be, up for new contracts soon. And are we going to pay them a max deal? Like in the case of Walker, Walker's made huge strides, and Walker has shown his ability to defend in his offensive rebounding numbers, his overall rebounding numbers. I mean, Walker is turning out. He's turning out some great performances, and Walker's my favorite. I'll put caveat on this. Walker's my favorite guy on the team right now. He's my number one guy. I think that he has great potential. Obviously, he needs to improve his offense still. Skill level with the ball in his hands, in the paint, and I'd still like to see him get an 18-foot face-up jumper so that people can't really cheat off of him. I don't really care about the three ball that much, but the skill development on the offensive end for Walker is still a work in process. But the guy has all the talent in the world. I mean, he can block shots with both hands. He can guard guys on the perimeter reasonably well for his size. He has all the tools. So Walker, I think, from the Jazz standpoint, they're going to still sit him too, because he's good enough that he impacts winning. And the Jazz can't have that. So Walker's going to end up sitting games too, just like he did tonight and just like he has over the previous few weeks. He's sat games in games where he could play simply because the Jazz need to facilitate losses. So that's the reality of it. That's where the Jazz are as a franchise. That's what they face every night in and night out right now. And unfortunately, the NBA has a system that rewards teams for losing in their lottery odds, and this is the system that the Jazz have to work within, and that's the reality of it. So, yes, is it bad for the league that teams are purposely losing games, especially with like 30 games left in the season and you're purposely losing games? Yes, it's bad. But that's the system we have. That's what the Jazz need to do. The Jazz need to find their way to a top 10 player. Their odds increase with higher picks. That's the reality of it. Whether that's Cooper Flagg or somebody else this year, we'll see. The ping pong balls will decide that. But anyway, let's get on to actually taking a look at the box score tonight and seeing where things stand. So like I said, the starting lineup: Johnny Juzang, KJ Martin, Kyle Filipowski, Bryce Sensabaugh, and Isaiah Collier. Yeah, that wasn't the expected starting lineup. If you would have asked me that yesterday, I would have said, yeah, I don't believe that. But it's nice to see. I think this was one of the most entertaining games I've seen the Jazz play in a while. And I'm actually going to rewatch this game when I have a chance because it was that entertaining. So Johnny didn't get a whole lot of minutes tonight, even though he did start. He played 16, and he didn't shoot the ball particularly well. KJ Martin had a decent game. He got big minutes, and I'm sure KJ Martin is loving this. I mean, he's actually getting quality NBA minutes, which he really wasn't getting previous to this Jazz stop. So I think the Jazz are wanting to evaluate him and evaluate him on a skill level, evaluate him on effort, toughness. And KJ Martin, obviously, as we talked about in the previous podcast, the guy has his dad's toughness. I mean, Kenyon Martin was known as the tough guy, and he had a mean streak, and KJ certainly has a piece of that in him. And the Jazz sorely need that. They actually have to get some toughness on the defensive end and willing to get guys who are willing to bang. I mean, Isaiah Collier does that. I mean, that guy body up to anybody. But KJ Martin certainly has that too, and he has the real mean streak in him. You can see that already. So, and that's great to see. Like, you need those guys on your team. You need the Dylan Brooks type of guy, the villains. You have to have those guys. If you want to win big, you got to have some villains on your team. And KJ Martin certainly fits that. Whether he is skilled enough to fit with the Jazz long term and have a significant role, I don't know. Prior to him arriving at the Jazz, I really hadn't watched him play. Yes, he was in Houston, and I saw him briefly, but this is the first time that I've actually seen him play major minutes. And I think we're probably all in that same boat for the most part, that we haven't really seen him play a lot. And I expect him over the last number of games this season, I think that he's going to get a real look with the Jazz, and the Jazz are going to give him an opportunity. And so I'd say that's positive. So let's get on to Kyle. Yeah, Kyle. 6 for 11 from the field overall, 4 for 4 from 3, 4 for 6 from the free throw line, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 20 total points. Now that's what you call filling up a box score. I mean, this game from Kyle tonight was the epitome of what I hope any rookie, I don't care where you're drafted, any rookie, this is exactly the result that you want. Kyle is obviously getting better and better and better, and he's shooting the ball so much fruit. I mean, his mechanics have always been really good, but he's just getting more and more confident in it, and more of his shots are going in, and he's not just shooting the corner threes anymore. He's shooting the above the break three, and he is very competent in shooting that straightaway three. And so few of the young guys are, and he is certainly stepping into that role. And now when he gets an open look, I think the ball's going to actually go in. I mean, these last couple of weeks, he's been shooting the ball so much better. It just looks so good when it leaves his hand. It's just, I mean, I just can't say enough good things about this guy. he's just great. So he had an awesome night, and he was certainly the player of the game. I mean, I so hope he continues to get big minutes like this the remainder of the season, and we continue to see some really high-level play from him with some big games like he had tonight. I mean, I think that's the best-case scenario for the Jazz. If the Jazz can find another piece, because I think we all believe that Isaiah Collier has the potential to be the starting point guard moving forward with the Jazz. He just needs to obviously improve his shooting. But Kyle can be another one of those guys. And where those guys were drafted, in the positions they were drafted, I mean, my goodness, the Jazz, all indications are that the Jazz struck gold with those two guys. So can't say enough good things about Kyle. And like we said, Bryce tonight, guy shoots 8 for 13 from the field, 4 for 5 from the 3 for 3 from the free throw line. He gets 4 rebounds. He has 1 assist. So he scores 23 total points in 26 and a half minutes on the court. And this is so nice to see from Bryce because he's struggled so much. I mean, he had that stretch of games where he scored all those points and he was shooting the ball really well. Then he gets injured, he goes down, and he was just never able to regain any confidence, and he wasn't getting playing time, and he obviously wasn't in rhythm. And to see him get 26 and a half minutes and actually get into a rhythm and the ball goes in for him, I mean, I couldn't be happier for the guy. Obviously, Bryce is not the best defender. He doesn't slide his feet particularly well on defense. I still would like to see him lose a little bit of weight. I think that would aid him in being able to defend the quicker guys on the perimeter and have a better chance of staying in front of those guys. But tonight was a really big step forward, and this was all positive for Bryce. So really great to see. Isaiah Collier tonight, I mean, he went 2 for 9 from the field, and he only got 24 minutes, and he's been playing a lot more than that. So this wasn't one of his better games. He still had some really positive plays. That one pass where he took the ball in his right hand and it never touched his left hand, he got the ball with his right hand and he fired it cross court to Bryce in the left corner for that open 3, and Bryce made that 3. That was a beautiful play because before Collier ever even touched that ball, he knew exactly what he needed to do with the ball. He knew where Bryce was, and he knew exactly what he needed to do. So as soon as he touched his right hand, he was in the motion of firing it over to Bryce in the corner for that open 3. Perfect play, perfectly executed, and that's exactly what you want from your point guard. A guy who actually sees the floor well enough to know what the play needs to be. He's a step ahead. And that's what I see in Collier when I see him play. And this is why I'm so excited about him. Yes, he still needs to improve his shooting. We all know that. But the way he sees the floor and the passes that he can throw, those are unique skills. Absolutely unique. Yeah, I think he made a big mistake in where he chose to go to school and being paired with Bronny James, because that just turned into a mess of a situation. So I think he would have been better off elsewhere. But the way he's playing right now, I mean, the Jazz, like I said, the Jazz struck gold with this guy. All indications are at this point the Jazz struck gold. So he had a rough night tonight overall, but still some positives, and I can't say enough good things about that kid too. He and Kyle, in my book, have just played great this year, and you couldn't even ask for anything more than what they've contributed to this point in the season. So that takes us to Keontae. Now, Keontae in his last game against Houston played a great game. He had 30 points, he had 8 rebounds and 6 assists in that game. Tonight was the exact opposite. He really struggled. I mean, this was a brutal box score. He goes 6 for 22 from the field, takes far more shots than anybody else on the team. He goes 4 for 14 from 3. So again, Keontae's percentages haven't been good this year. And this was another game where not only weren't they good, I mean, he shot 27% from the field overall. I mean, that is a brutal night, especially when you shoot the most shots on the team by far. Yeah, that's just a bad night. So he scored 21 points, but he took 22 shots plus 5 free throws, and he also had 4 turnovers. It's just a rough night. And some of those calls that he got against Houston, where he went and shot free throws, he did not get all those calls tonight. He got a couple, but he did not get all those calls. And that actually really did hurt his field goal percentages. And it hurt his turnovers too. So this is the problem. Like, I've always likened Keontae to the kind of the way that Harden plays in trying to bait people into fouls. And Keontae does this, Harden does it, and he kind of flops into it. I mean, he's like a miniature version of Harden. And I would rather him just go and try and make a basketball play rather than trying to bait people into fouls. And this night, it bit him. And oftentimes, it's bit Harden over the years. You know, he has those games where he just commits a ton of turnovers and he shoots really poor from the field just because he didn't get the calls that night. And so I'd rather Keontae just focus on actually making a real basketball play rather than just trying to get fouled. And I think that hurt him tonight, personally. Yeah, overall, he didn't shoot the ball well anyway. I mean, 4 for 14 from 3, that's just obviously that's an abysmal percentage. 29% from 3. That's just bad. But anyway, Keontae will have better games. He just struggled tonight. And the last person I want to talk to about in the box score, Cody Williams had another solid outing. So this was, again, a great sign from Cody. He plays 27 minutes. He goes 4 for 9 from the field, and he grabs 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Now, this is exactly what we want from Cody Williams. Not just about focusing on the points and the shots, but doing other things in the box score. And the 8 rebounds for his size in 27 minutes, that's a really nice number because he's had so many games where he didn't even record a rebound. And then he pulls in 8 tonight with the 5 assists and 1 steal. I mean, those are all really positive numbers. I mean, those are great numbers. I could care less that he scored 8 points. I actually am really happy with the 8 points. 4 for 9 from the field, that's good. Only take 9 shots. Worry about the other parts of your games. Just don't focus on the shots. And that's what he did tonight, and it worked out well, and he was definitely a net positive his time on the court. I mean, he was great. He played solid defense too. Obviously, we all know that Cody needs to get stronger. He has a really thin frame right now, but we hope that he can move into that. Similar to the way that Taylor has really improved his body. Hopefully Cody can, over the next year, can really improve his body. And we'll see what happens. But he shows glimpses of being a really good basketball player. He just needs to get consistency, and obviously the shooting, his mechanics aren't really flawed. Like Isaiah Collier, I'm not a fan of his mechanics, and I think they need to be tweaked. Cody's maybe a bit of tweaking, but he doesn't need to restructure it. Just a bit of tweaking. When you watch him shoot, you kind of see the way he shoots the ball. You see some Jalen Williams in him. His brother Jalen, who plays with the OKC Thunder. You do see a similar type of, his mechanics. There are some similarities there between he and his brother. And his brother's obviously a terrific shooter. So I'm still hopeful that Cody can move into that. He obviously needs to work on his shooting in the offseason, but I don't see any reason why he isn't able to do that. But anyway, tonight was just a great night. The Jazz ultimately lost. That's what they needed to do. We all know that. We're playing the lottery, ping pong balls. That's the focus of this season. The Jazz need to get the top 10 player. I don't believe there's anybody on this, that follows the Jazz religiously and is a big fan of the Jazz, who think that the Jazz have the top 10 player on their team right now, and the Jazz need to get that. So the best way to do that is through the lottery. So the Jazz lost tonight. Step in the right direction. They're obviously in a competition for one of the 3 worst records and hoping for that number 1 pick. And competitive game, and they still lost. That's what we want. Anyway, we're going to call the night, and we hope that everybody has a great night. And please like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. And for those watching on X, please follow. And we will talk to everybody after the next game. Good night, everybody.